Well, of the three different types of caching we can do, the first type of caching we want to look at is the cache object. Now, there is one cache object that's created per web application. Now, this thing is created automatically for you. It holds references to objects, not the objects themselves, but it holds references to these objects in memory. And items can be stored here. And that's the key word, items. Now, by items, basically limit is to how much memory we want to use. Again, I've already mentioned storing data sets and so forth in there. This is very similar to an application variable. Okay? But again, this is going to be faster than the application variable because the cache is going to be held, again, in cache, in RAM memory. Now, we can only use the cache object to store data that's going to be used between pages in a single web application. So we can't set this thing up there and then pass information across multiple web applications with it. There's only one limitation with it. And the cache lifetime is the application lifetime. So this is a memory construct that only lasts as long as our application lasts. As soon as the last person disconnects and our application ends, anything that was in that cache object is gone. Now the cache object, just like the application and session variables, uses key value pairs. Very similar way to use these things. Now, what exactly are the advantages of using a cache object? Well, the first thing is fast access. If you've ever played with, if you remember RAM drive and MS-DOS, the difference in pulling that stuff out of RAM as opposed to pulling it off that disk, you're going to get the same type of performance increase, just like when you add a bunch more RAM to your personal computer. Speeds everything up. Another thing that's really great is automatic locking. Now, I didn't really go into locking back when we talked about application variables. But we've got an issue with application variables. If everybody on every web page can see this variable and can change it and write to it, then we could have a potential issue where two or more people at once are trying to write to it, and that's going to cause a problem. With application variables, we can manually turn locking on and off, which means I can lock a variable, make a change to it, and then unlock it, and that prevents simultaneous changes from being attempted on that variable. If I use a cache object, that locking is automatic. It's handled in the background for me, and I don't even have to worry about it. And so that's less code, less hassle, one less thing to worry about. So that's a big advantage for the cache object. Also, the cache object is an object that falls under the management of the Common Language Runtime, which means it benefits from that garbage collection and that automatic object cleanup that takes place in .NET. Now, you may not have heard about that. That's a .NET thing, and I touched on .NET very briefly at the beginning of the course. But the automatic garbage collection is a huge improvement in .NET, and you get that advantage here with a cache object. You can also do callback functions, and I want to go into a lot of detail here because this is intro. But I can have objects do things, take actions and stuff, and then report back to me when they're finished with those. The cache object also supports me being able to remove cached items based on dependencies of other cached items, which simply means that if I've got, say, one item that's connected to a bunch of items that I've pulled out of a database that I've written to the cache object, if I drop the database, it'll also drop that single item that I'm looking at. And this helps me from basically creating a memory nightmare out there. So as you can see, this cache object can become quite valuable to us. And you really need to take a look at this thing. And in the next video, we're going to look at actually using this thing. And we'll run an example or two and let you see what's going on with it.